All right, happy Friday. It is February 12th, 2021. Glenn Stein, Realty Executives here in the Villages, Florida. Hope you're doing well. And as usual, just about this time, typically I try to do this on Friday afternoons, give you guys an update as to what's going on in the marketplace, what are the trends, what's going on in our area and around the country. Become also not only the broker for Realty Executives in the Villages, Florida, but also broker for the Ocala office. And I coach a lot of people for the Tom Ferry organization, which is a real estate organization, real estate coaching organization that assists realtors in building their business. And so I do have a hand on the pulse of what's going on around the country. And I'm going to share some of that with you as well as give you some local information as well. But let's talk about the macro. Let's talk about what's going on around the country in real estate. Obviously, the real estate market just absolutely on fire in almost every area. New York City has been hampered by it, some of the inner cities, but even those places, I've got some clients in New York City and clients in DC, in fact, and the condo market and the apartment market, small apartment market has been really hampered. So that's a real issue, and a lot of them are moving to the suburban areas, and they're moving because they can work at home, and they're looking for larger areas and green space areas and that type of thing. But overall, what we've seen since the beginning of COVID in the spring of 2020 is pretty much a V-shaped recovery in real estate, right? I'm not talking about the economy, but talking about real estate, and that's what we've seen. Some basic information I want to give you is purchase applications have gone up as well. So meaning applications for mortgages around the country has gone up. Sales of a number of sales, 2020 was probably the biggest, largest volume sales year in real estate ever. Many people around the country had record years as far as how many properties they sold and the volume they sold. Inventory is at a all-time record low. So sales going up, inventory going down has really caused an issue for a lot of people. Building is at a premium in many markets. Builders have stopped signing contracts with people, and they're just putting together lists because they're so far behind. Another thing that's been just a little bit of word from people that have been concerned about what's going on in the real estate market and the economy. People worried about, there's going to be a bunch of foreclosures and a lot of people that are in forbearance. And I just looked at the forbearance numbers, and at the peak, we were looking at about 4.8 million people in forbearance or, getting a timeout on paying their mortgage. And looks like for the last 6 months, we've been under 3 million, about 2.75 million people in forbearance around the country, which seems like a large number, but really isn't in the whole scheme of things. So definitely less forbearance people. And that's not what we're seeing. We're really not anticipating any kind of crash. I think there's going to be some tapering off. Obviously, there's going to be some people that are not going to be able to buy, and some people that are going to go into foreclosure eventually when the forbearance period ends, just like usual. But it's not a crash like what we saw in 08, 09. You can really see it. The handwriting was on the wall in 2006. That things were just getting a little bit too nuts, and definitely a real estate bubble. That's not what we're seeing here. That's not, unless something really tragic or crazy happens, which you never know. But based on what we're seeing on the facts available, it doesn't look like we're in any kind of housing bubble. It just means that we're short on inventory around the country, and a lot of that stems from the lack of building for about 7 or 8 years around the country, and then of course the millennials actually moving out of their parents' basements and now moving into and needing housing. So there's a housing shortage around the country. All of that really affects us because that means that people around the country, wherever they're coming from, whether they're coming from California or the West Coast, but most of our people come from the Midwest and Northeast. Their houses are selling easier and faster and for more money, which means that people are coming into our area with cash, or they've got a lot of money down. It's much easier for them to purchase than in the past because their houses are selling, and obviously that affects our area here in the villages with all the baby boomers that are moving and that type of thing. And yes, we have been affected. I think we would have a bigger market in our area if it wasn't for the effect of COVID on retirees. So that's been a major play, and I think it's tempered the enthusiasm of many, but certainly the market is still incredibly strong. And let me give you a couple of examples. In the beginning of, right in the middle of COVID, probably spring, summer of 2020, our inventory on MLS ran into the 420 plus range, 420 homes that were available in MLS in the Villages market in Florida. Now we're looking at 304 properties available, right? So that's more than 100 less, which would be right at about 22 to 25% less inventory in a 6 to 8 month period. That's a big decrease in inventory. The sales have gone up by pretty much the same amount. So we saw a record December and a record number of sales in January. So we're seeing a lot of what we were seeing around the country, we're seeing finally in the Villages area. So inventory going down tremendously, big decrease in inventory, and increase in sales. Now with people obviously getting vaccinated, we're seeing a slight uptick in our rental department and some more people that want to move, and they're feeling a little bit safer. I think that's only going to exacerbate a situation where inventory is going to go down even more. Okay. So, what are the reasons why this is happening? Well, a big part of the reasons is number one, obviously cold weather, right? I'm seeing a message from Snowbound. Obviously cold weather has had an impact on COVID, but also cold weather and winter storms recently up in the north have moved people faster in our direction. That's typical. And also the amount of homes that are selling up north for more money has made a real big impact on our marketplace as well. So just to give you a little bit of a recap on this last 7 days, I've been giving you a recap on the last 7 days to give you a micro shot as to what's going on. And it really, it also relates to what we're talking about here. Number one, the new listing inventory that we're seeing right now is 53 new listings in the last 7 days, which is a pretty healthy amount. Okay, that's a good amount. Low periods that we've seen in the past, maybe 29, 30, I think are probably the lowest numbers over the last, we've been tracking this last 50 weeks, pretty much almost a year now. And so that's good. We've seen a lot of price decreases. So still people testing the marketplaces. 38 sold or closed in the last week. And I don't pay too much attention to that until the end of the month to see what the totals are, because a lot of times closed properties, the amounts are, typically there are more closings toward the end of the month. So new listings 53, price increases 6, which occasionally happens. Price decreases 44, and we've seen 13 properties come back on the market, which is good. Sometimes people take a time out. Sometimes there's a reason why people take a time out. Maybe they're tired of the process, or maybe COVID was an issue, or there might be a lot of things that are going on in the marketplace. So, and Brock is asking, will there be a bigger supply and inventory in the spring or summer? I think we are going to see more properties come on the marketplace, but the problem that we're having, and this is where I'm going to lead to next, is the number of properties that are going off the market or under contract. The big issue, and this is where I think we're going to see an issue. We're actually here in the Villages, I think we're a little bit behind on where the market has been around the country, which is, I've got some clients in California that they're seeing 2 to 3 weeks worth of inventory, which means that the amount of homes that are on the market, if no more homes came on the market, it would take 2 to 3 weeks for all the inventory to be gone, which is ridiculous. That's an incredibly hot, extremely white hot market. In our area, we're typically seeing about 2 to 2.5 months, which is still a very, very hot market, just not as hot as some of these other areas. But I think we're heading in that direction. That's what the trends are indicating. And it's not me guessing. It's not me, coming out with a crystal ball and saying, okay, this is what I think is going to happen. It's really looking at the trends. And this is the number that indicates that. And that is 89 pendings, 89 pending homes, 89 homes that have gone under contract or have left the market over the last 7 days. And I'm left the market as in, gone under contract. And yes, Madison, Wisconsin, inventory's low. You talk to anybody, almost anywhere, except for like New York City and the condo markets in the inner cities, or in areas that are just not desirable areas, the inventory is very high. But I'd say probably 98% of the country inventory, every realtor is complaining about low inventory, low inventory, low inventory. And what's crazy is that in 2010, or I'm sorry, 2019 and 2020, last several years, that's been the word. All right, inventory's low and it's tight. I've got some client. I'm thinking about a client in Bozeman, Montana, and she was telling me, kudos, shout out to Tamara Williams in Bozeman, Montana. She was telling me that a couple of weeks of inventory, and the market is super, super tight over there because of folks that are moving from California. There's a lot of people that are moving from different areas, whether it's political reasons or for weather reasons or financial reasons or whatever. And they're moving because they can cash out because the appreciation factor has gone through the roof, 50% over the last 2 years. So we're seeing that, and the market is just absolutely bananas across the country. And we're really starting to see that where 2020 was a strong year, but it wasn't as strong as 2019 here in our area in the Villages. Still was a strong year. And it's not just me saying, oh, it's a strong year, it's a great time to buy or sell. I think as realtors, we overuse that for sure because we're interested in selling properties. It's commission based. So I think people get over exuberant about such things. But I'm looking at these numbers where we're saying 53 new and 89 under contract. And we know the trends are, looking at a chart, inventory going straight down, right? Well, we're not straight down, but we're seeing like what did we say, about 25%, 20 to 25% decrease in inventory last 6 months, and pretty much the same in sales going the opposite direction. What that tells me right now is this is actually the best time that we've ever seen to sell. And it seems like the last couple of years we've said that as a real estate industry, now's the best time to sell. Now's the best time to sell but you know what, with inventory being so low, it really is the best time to sell. I think you can really capitalize. I've actually told a lot of my realtors, even the properties that have been sitting on the market for the last couple of months, the tide has been rising. The tide has been rising where maybe, property that was overpriced, or, you're looking at properties that were, that just weren't getting the showings or the looks, are now getting looks because the tide is rising, inventory going down and sales going up. Do I see a market crash? So I don't see a market crash. And I'll tell you this, and going back to what I was talking about before, I'm really known for not being just kind of Pollyannish, just not being over exuberant, but just being level-headed and understanding where the market is. And what I see right now is not what we saw in 2006. And even though 2006 was supposed to be one of the best years ever in real estate back then, you can tell that it was completely ridiculous. The market was completely ridiculous. People were buying homes that they were buying multiple homes just to flip. And I can tell you stories about that, but it was just a completely different atmosphere. Now people are buying homes because of low interest rates, right? And I know a lot of people are predicting a crash. And I think, and if you watch too much news, there's a lot of negativity out there. There's a crash. But based on the numbers and based on, and here's a big reason why the crash probably won't happen. The biggest reason is that there's too many people that have equity in their homes. What we didn't see back when in the last housing crash was there was too many people that were over leveraged, 30-year mortgages around the country. I'm not just talking about locally, 30-year mortgages, but also tons of people that bought with 100% down, and there was just no equity. So when things went slightly sideways and they couldn't afford the home anymore, there were too many homes that hit the market, too many homes that were foreclosed on, and the economy went south, and a lot of different things happened. And remember the last, I think it was pretty close to a depression. We'll call it the recession, back, 8, 9, and 10 financial crisis was really caused by real estate, right? Now, what we're seeing here is not caused by real estate. It's caused by COVID related things and that type of thing. But everything that I'm seeing when we're looking at, the amount of people that are buying with, purchase applications, we talked about that, sales going up, inventory going down, the amount of people that were in forbearance in May, right, almost double the amount that we're seeing in February of 2021. So less people are in forbearance, and a lot more people have equity. Now, if interest rates go up, that will slow down the economy, slow down the housing a bit, right? Because a lot of this is being fueled. One of the reasons is low interest rates around the country. But if we see that, we might see a slowdown in real estate, and we might see some foreclosures, by the way. I'm not saying we're going to see it, and I don't think we're going to see a ton in our area. Even in the worst of times, we didn't see a lot in the villages. We saw a lot in the Ocala, the outskirts of the villages, that type of thing. But I don't think we're going to see a lot of foreclosures and a lot of a big market crash around the country. But I think you may see some foreclosures. I think that's going to happen. However, there's enough cash in the marketplace. There's enough cash equity in people's homes where if they do get into trouble, there's still enough buyers, there's still enough supply, right? We're talking about real end users this time, which is the other difference in this market versus 10 to 12 years ago. We're talking about end user buyers versus non-end user buyers. People are just buying 2 to 3 to 4, 5 plus homes, even 10 homes. I can think of a client that did that locally just to flip and just make some money. So that's the big difference is you got end users that are buying, people that are really interested in buying, and you're seeing more of a demand because of millennials around the country that have grown up, and the lack of housing that was built, not a lot of new construction over the last 10 years up until recently. Villages is a little bit different. It's built on snowbirds and people retiring, which is still happening. So a lot of information. I'm not seeing a crash. I'm seeing maybe a softer, maybe a plateau for sure. I think that has to come, and that's what I'm really not advocating, but communicating with our clients, communicating with my realtors here at Realty Executives in the Villages. And so you have to be ready for that. But crash, not so much. I don't see it. Could be wrong, but I'm usually not wrong on this kind of stuff. Based on the information I'm seeing and looking at, that's not really something I'm indicating. So when can it happen? I would look at interest rates. Interest rates are going to tell you almost everything about a little bit of a slowdown, which means that instead of maybe we're looking at 53 new listings hitting the market, 89 pending, and a 7-day number. Maybe we'll see 53 new listings and maybe 40 to 45 properties that are going under contract, that type of thing. So a little bit of a reversal there, slight reversal. So that could be when interest rates go up. When is that going to happen? Hard to say. I'm hearing predictions. Predictions I'm hearing are interest rates will go up towards the latter part of this year. So fall, winter of this year, and I think we'll see a little bit of a slowdown then. Even in the summer months here in the Villages, it does not only does it get hotter in temperature, be surprised, actually in our area, We used to be more seasonal here, but not as much anymore. But for questions, be happy to answer any questions. If you want to, you can always call me, by the way, 352-572-3796. 352-572-3796 is a good way to catch me. Also, you can check out our website at buysellthevillages.com if you're interested in, look, if you're just interested in finding out what's available, feel free to do that. No worries there. It will ask you to register. Don't freak out. We're not going to spam you. We're not going to harass you, that type of thing. So buysellthevillages.com. So I'm Glenn Stein, Realty Executives in the Villages, Florida. Hope everybody does well. Have a great weekend and connect with me, please. All right. Take care.